I currently head the admission counseling at Jamboree Education, and having done my bachelor's and master's both from United Kingdom. So I have been working in the study abroad industry for past 16 years now, and have been have assisted thousands of students in realizing their dream of a good undergraduate or a postgraduate graduate education abroad. So that is the background from where I come from. And with me today in the panel, we also have three of my premier undergraduate counselors. So let me take time to just introduce themselves. So we will start with Manish. So Manish, if you can just introduce yourself to the attendees.
I am Manish Shankar. I've been with Jamboree for the past 14 years, and I've counseled close to 10,000 students. Varied countries like UK, Europe countries, US, Canada, all across Singapore. I've had students in NTU and NUS and SMU. So we have a comprehensive process where we provide full guidance to the students.
Thank you, Manish. So now, just to tell you, Manish has been working with Jamboree for 13 years now, and have assisted lots of students in going to top undergraduate universities abroad. Thanks, Manish. So now we have Sharmishta. So Sharmishta, if you can introduce yourself.
Hello everybody. I would first like to thank you all to join us for the webinar today. So my name is Sharmishta. I've been working with the Jamboree undergraduate team for the past 2 years now. I've handled close to 200 students for various countries again, US, UK, Canada, Ireland. So I hope to share my knowledge with you today, and I hope to answer all your questions.
Sharmishta. So now we have Anamika. So Anamika, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, this is Anamika, and am I audible?
Yes, Anamika.
Great. I graduated from UC Davis with my bachelor's degree and then worked in US for a year and then decided to come back to India, and now I've been working with Jamboree Education and helping students, provide them counseling and helping them achieve their study abroad dreams.
Thank you, Anamika. So that is our panel. So they will be joining me today in giving you relevant information with respect to undergraduate education in popular non-US destinations. So as the slide suggests, we will be only covering non-US destinations today. So if you have any questions related to US, so maybe we can cover it in another webinar, but this webinar is focused only at non-US destinations. So just to tell you how we will take you through the webinar. So first of all, we will have our presentation, which we have in place for you. And once our presentation is done, so we will open the house for question and answers. So we will open the house for questions, and then, we will give you the opportunity to ask all your questions, and we will also answer those to the best of our ability. And again, thanks a lot for taking your time out and to coming and attending this presentation. So I believe we have some students as well as some parents also for this webinar. So thank you everyone for taking your time out, and without wasting further time, so we will now start. So that's the final check. So is my screen visible to you, and are we audible to each and every one of you? So you can just type a yes in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. Okay, thank you. So now what I'll do, I'll disable the chat function, and we will enable it once we want to start the question answers. So now I will disable the chat function for everyone. Thank you. So the popular destinations for the undergraduate education when it comes to non-US, a lot of students prefer to go to Canada. They prefer to go to the United Kingdom. They prefer to go to Ireland, which is really an upcoming destination for students abroad. A lot of students also look for the Asian options like Singapore, and along with Singapore, they also look at Hong Kong as a destination. And then some of the students also want to go to Australia. So these are some of the popular destinations which we'll be covering today in our presentation. So we will talk on each destination individually during the course of our presentation. So first of all, let us start with Canada. So just to give you some sense. So Canada, the geography of Canada is divided into 10 provinces. So you have you have the British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. So these are around the 10 provinces which divide the entire Canada as a whole. And apart from that, we have 3 territories, which is the Yukon Territory, the Northwest Territory, and the Nunavut Territory. So a lot of students want to apply to these regions of Canada, especially to regions like British Columbia. So British Columbia is quite famous among the students. A lot of students want to go to the British Columbia side. And the second region or province is the Ontario. So these 2 regions are quite popular among the Indian students. So Ontario for Canada is like the east coast of US, so like a New York. And if I were to suggest, British Columbia is like a west coast of US. So as west coast in US is California, so the west part of Canada is British Columbia. So these 2 provinces are quite popular among the students, and some of the top or best universities of Canada lie in these 2 provinces. So why a lot of students want to prefer Canada as a destination? First of all, the global focus that the universities have in Canada. So universities are quite old, with the likes of University of Waterloo, University of Toronto, University of British Columbia. They are quite old universities which have a global focus on education. You are taught by some of the top faculties in the world who are also Nobel Prize winners in their field. So that is where the professors come into picture, and they give you a real life experience when they want to teach you at an undergraduate level. Obviously, the universities are quite worldwide recognized, because a lot of universities in Canada are recognized around the world because they also feature in some of the global rankings. So a lot of top universities like Toronto, Waterloo, McGill, UBC, Simon Fraser, University of Manitoba also feature in some of the top global rankings in the world. Another very important feature which a lot of students also are attracted towards Canada are the friendly PR policies. So if you want to go to Canada, so a lot of intention while going to Canada is the opportunity to settle for a permanent residency in Canada. So because if you go in Canada, so you study there, so there's a lot of opportunity by the government that allows you to obtain a permanent residency or a citizenship of Canada. That is why the immigration of Canada is open for international students. Why? Because they need the manpower, or the workforce of Canada is an aging population. So that is why they need a lot of international students or people to fill those jobs and settle in their country. So that is why Canada is quite friendly in terms of the permanent residency is concerned. And a lot of support services are provided to international students as far as Canada is concerned. So a lot of support services in terms of education, in terms of research and technology. The technology is also available at the forefront of the students. So a lot of students, in terms of medical healthcare. So a lot of support services are easily available for international students when they are there in Canada. So those are some of the possible reasons why students look at Canada as a very popular study abroad destination for their undergraduate education. Just to give you a sense of some of the top Canadian universities, and also I have mentioned what percentages these universities look at during your schooling in India. So this will give you some sense of how much percentages you need to expect in these universities. So you have the popular University of Toronto. Then we have University of Waterloo. These are some of the top universities of Canada. So they expect you having a 90% plus, and similarly Waterloo and British Columbia also expect you to have an 85 to 90% in your schooling. McMaster, most of the programs require higher grades, but the average is around 60 to 70%. University of Ottawa requires around 80%. These are mostly the class 12th, the CBSE board scores. These are not the SAT scores, just for the knowledge of everyone. So these are the board scores which the universities look at for in your application, not the SAT. Brock University, another very good university, requires 60% for arts courses and 70% for courses related to sciences. Then you have the York University, University of Alberta and University of Guelph with 80%. Simon Fraser at 80%. University of Windsor, another very good university in Ontario, and then with 70%, and then University of Saskatchewan with a 60 to 70%. So all in all, I would suggest if you're looking for Canada as a destination, so try to have at least a 65 to 70% in your schooling, so as to which can put you in a good stride for these universities. So for example, for students who are from the IB board, so no, for example, as far as the IB curriculum is concerned, so for example, the top universities like University of Toronto and Waterloo would expect a 38 to 39 score in the IB. And similarly, University of British Columbia, if it says 85%, it's again around a 38, 39 in IB board. And for universities which states around 60 to 70%, so try to have a 35 plus in the IB curriculum. And there will be also be some universities which will also be available to you with a score of 30 in the IB curriculum. So if you are applying for these universities from IB, so these are some of the IB scores requirements which you need to take into consideration while putting in a strong application for the Canadian universities. So entry requirements, again, very minimum entry requirements again vary from university to university, as I mentioned in the previous slide. So lot of percentage criteria ranges between 65% and 90%, because the total focus on the Canadian universities while giving you admission is on your academics. So when I say academics, so I'll come to that in the next slide. So a competitive extracurricular profile. So you have good extracurriculars if you have position in the school council. You have done some Olympiads at national level. Some online courses and any other such extracurricular activity, maybe an NGO, social service. You play a musical instrument. You have played sports at various levels. So anything that you do apart from your studies constitute for an extracurricular activity, and these are some of the application components which the Canadian universities look for while giving you admission. But again, academics still stays on a very high priority because a strong focus is given on the academics by a lot of Canadian universities. IELTS or TOEFL is required as an English proficiency requirement. So IELTS is preferred for Canada. So if you're looking for Canada alone, so my suggestion is always to take IELTS. So IELTS is preferred over the TOEFL. A few universities, because of the COVID-19 situation, have started accepting the Duolingo English test, but that is only restricted to the September 20 intake. But since most of you will be applying for January 21 and September 21 and the intakes beyond that, so I would strongly suggest you to take the IELTS exam rather than the TOEFL or rather than the TOEFL and the Duolingo English test. So what are the various application checklists that you need to follow when it comes to Canada? So they require your high school transcripts. So they will require your academic transcripts of class 9th, of class 10th, of class 11th, and half yearly of class 12th. And also most of the Canadian universities also would require your predicted scores of class 12th, because based on that, they will be giving you conditional offers. So your 9th, 10th, 11th, half yearly of 12th, and your predicted scores of class 12th exams are very important while giving you a conditional offer for the undergraduate education at the university. Then your English proficiency scores, your IELTS exam scores are very important. So if you're applying for good universities, I would always suggest to score at least a score of 7 bands out of 9 with no individual band less than 6. So you should try at an overall band score of 7 out of 9 with no individual band score of less than 6.0. So those are the bare minimum requirements for Canadian education as far as IELTS is concerned. And then most of the top universities like Waterloo and your Toronto, UBC, etc., they have essays, but very few, it is very restricted to very few universities. But lot of universities also want to require a statement of purpose in your profile. So what exactly is your purpose? Why do you want to do that bachelor's degree from that university? And how will that bachelor's degree lead to your long-term goals? So that is what you will mention in the statement of purpose, and your what is your purpose of doing that bachelor's degree from at this stage of your life, and why from that university. That is a detailed explanation that you will provide in the statement of purpose. So these statement of purpose are very important, especially for a Canadian education, because sometimes a low percentage can be substituted by a very high or a very strong statement of purpose. So you need, as a student, you need to pay close attention while drafting the statement of purpose. Then you also require a copy of your passport, and very few universities require LORs in Canada, the letter of recommendations from your school teachers and your principal. So there are majorly only two intakes in Canada. So one is a September intake. September intake, the deadline starts from October. So for example, if you're looking for September 21 intake, so the deadlines will start from October of 2020 and they will go till March 2021. So those are the deadlines for September 21. And if you're looking for January 2021 intake, which is offered by very few schools in Canada, so the deadlines start from May 2020, which is already going now, and they will end till end of August or beginning of September of 2021. So these are the deadlines which are mostly followed by the Canadian universities as far as the intakes are concerned. And some of you are also asking about the SAT essay. So just to clear you, just to make things clear for you, SAT is not required by Canadian universities. So the SAT is not an essential requirement by the Canadian university. So even if you have not taken SAT, you don't have to worry, because most or almost all the Canadian schools do not pay emphasis on the SAT, and it is also not an application requirement and also not important from admissions point of view. So SAT is not at all required by Canadian schools. Just to give you some sense on the postgraduate work permit of Canada. So international students do have the opportunity to work up to 3 years post completion of their diploma or bachelor's degrees from Canada. So since most of the undergraduate degrees in Canada are 4 years duration, so the students will get a 3-year post-study work permit in Canada. And also while pursuing your bachelor's degree, you can also do on-campus and off-campus part-time jobs during your bachelor's study. So as an international student, you can work for 20 hours per week on a part-time basis in Canada during your undergraduate studies, which can easily take care of your living expenses in Canada. So apart from only your academics, no other standardized test is required by Canada. You only have to take the English proficiency test, which is the IELTS exam. Otherwise, SAT or ACT is not required by Canadian universities. So what I'll do is I'll pause here for a minute, and I will give an opportunity to some of you who have questions to Canada. So any questions on Canada? So Mr. Mahesh Gandla has a question. So Mr. Mahesh, I'm giving you the mic option, so you can ask your question. Mr. Mahesh, you can unmute yourself. Yes, Mr. Mahesh. Okay, so we have Mr. Sajin Kothari. So Mr. Sajin, you have a question? So Mr. Sajin, you can unmute yourself. Mr. Mahesh, you have a question?
No, sir.
Okay. So we have Funny. Funny, you have a question to ask? Mr. Sachin, you want to ask your question as you raised your hand? Yeah, Funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any particular university that is good for business program undergrad in
Okay.
Canada?
Okay. So, Mahesh, Manish, you want to take up that question? Hello, Manish.
I'm just switching on the
Okay.
video. Yeah, so ma'am, there is a University of Toronto, British Columbia, right? McMaster, McGill. So these are all good schools for business in Canada.
Okay.
And also, just for everybody's reference, it is always better, no, even if you are applying for courses like business or economics, to have maths in your class 11th and 12th. So for students who want to study sciences or economics or business, so it is always preferred to have the maths as a subject in your class 12th. So because a lot of universities in Canada do ask for the maths requirement.
Okay. Is SAT score compulsory for every university?
No, SAT is not required in Canada by most of the universities.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have Ashik Biswas. So Ashik, you want to ask your question?
Yes, I do want to ask my question.
Yes,
So
please.
basically, for going to Canada, only my exam scores like 10, 12, and the 19, 11, 12, along with the English proficiency test. So I do not need to give any other test.
No, no, Ashik.
Okay. So I wanted to ask something more. That is basically, is the academic cost and the chances of scholarship or waivers more in Canada, like than in USA? Basically, if I want to compare universities of same ranking.
Okay. So Sharmishta, you want to answer that question?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Sharmishta.
Okay. Yeah, so about the scholarships, a few universities, they do offer scholarships in Canada, like University of British Columbia. There's a separate application for scholarships generally. Like British Columbia has this ILOT scholarship that you can apply for. So, and the main criteria for scholarship again is academic scores, like your school scores.
Okay. And along with it, say for example, the top schools in Canada, like University of Toronto or the University of British Columbia. So would it be better if I take the SAT, if I take the SAT and maybe the AP? So would it like improve my academic outlook for them?
See, generally the Canadian universities, even the top ones, they don't look at the SAT score. But if you've already taken the SAT exam, then you can submit your scores to those universities. But APs, I don't think they're considered in Canada.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Because because for everybody's reference, most of the Canadian universities bank these scholarships on the overall profile. So as I mentioned, your academic performance from 9 to 12th, then your essays, SOPs, letter of recommendations, and your IELTS scores and the extracurricular activities. So these have major emphasis while deciding your scholarships. If you have an SAT, you can submit it, but it is not a mandatory requirement by the Canadian universities. Okay, so we have Ankit Kumar. So Ankit, you want to ask your question?
Is any university in Canada offering need-based scholarship?
No, Ankit, there are no need-based scholarships in Canada. So Manish, would you like to take up that question?
Yeah, in case of Canada, all the scholarships are primarily merit-based. There are no assessment-based scholarships in Canada. And the merit-based deadlines are usually around 1st of December. The earlier you apply, the better it is.
How scholarships are given on the basis of academics? Suppose anyone student get less marks in 9th rather than scoring high marks in 10th, 11th and 12th.
Yeah, they will give you scholarships based on your class 9, class 10 board
So
result,
overall
class 11
percentage
result,
they
since by the
want.
time, yeah, they want a percentage based on the universities. Like, for example, universities like University of Toronto or Waterloo would expect at least a 90% plus, wherein universities like British Columbia would expect at least an 85 plus, and with no subject marks less than 60. You
Oh,
should have at least a
and
first division in
which
each
is
and
the
every
best university for computer science in Canada?
University of Toronto is there. Then you have Waterloo is a great school for computer science. Plus, they also have the co-op option, right?
They're accepting Duolingo test, English test in this year.
This year, anyways, the deadlines are already over, right? So for the next year, you would be applying for the fall 2021 intake, for which we would rather suggest you to take the IELTS exam. Since
Oh,
for visa purposes at later stages, you would be take the IELTS exam.
thank you, sir.
Okay, so we will take one more question. So Swab, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, if we have filed for our PR status
Okay.
and that is in pipeline, so the first year, if I have to be an international student, then is it convertible to a normal PR student next year, or do I have to pay the international fees in advance?
Because till the time you get your PR in place, so you will still be charged on the international tuition fees. But once you get the PR, so then you will be converted to the domestic student status.
Okay, and you had not mentioned the McGill University in the known universities. What is the percentile for that required?
McGill is around 85%.
85. And SAT, you said it is not required at
Yeah,
all.
it's not required at all.
At all. So you said at some places. Okay, not at
No.
all.
It is not required at all in most of the Canadian schools.
Okay, and IELTS is compulsory?
IELTS is compulsory, yes.
Compulsory. And maths, if I've taken up psychology, is maths compulsory for psychology subject?
No, maths is not compulsory for psychology. So there are a lot of schools for psychology would not like to have maths. So I'll also have Sharmishta to answer the question also along with me.
For BSc psychology.
Yeah, BS psychology. So Sharmishta.
So if you don't mind, can you please state the subjects that
psychology.
No, as in class 12. What are the subjects?
PCB Psych, ma'am.
Yeah, so in that case, we can apply without mathematics since you're biology, then it should be fine. So either mathematics or biology is required generally in Canadian universities.
Okay. You answered all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question, please.
I actually wanted to ask something. I am Aishik.
Yeah, Aishik, we can come back to you after a while.
Okay, sure. No issue.
Okay. Thank you everyone for asking those questions. So we'll move on. So the next country, a lot of students also plan to go is the United Kingdom. So because the United Kingdom has always been at the top radar of a lot of students, and because some of the prestigious universities in the world like Oxford, Cambridge, London School of Economics, Imperial College London, Durham University, Edinburgh, Manchester University, Warwick University, University College London, these universities are quite old and are quite well ranked and top ranked among a lot of schools in the world. And they also date way back to the 14th century. So these are very, very old and reputed universities where a lot of students also plan to study the undergraduate education. So the admissions of UK are only based on academics. So the admissions are primarily based on class 12th and class 10th marks. They don't look at your marks of class 9th and 11th. So even if you have not done well as a student in 9th or 11th, so it doesn't matter because it's only class 10th and the predicted scores of class 12th are good enough to secure a conditional offer by UK universities. So once you submit the application, the conditional offer is given by the universities based on the 10th and 12th marks. And once you get the conditional offers and immediately once you get your class 12 final mark sheet and you submit those to the UK universities, they convert the conditional offer into an unconditional offer. So that is how the UK education system works. And as far as the English proficiency exam is concerned, so a lot of universities expect an overall IELTS score of 6.5 with no band less than 6. But some of the top universities like Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, etc. would want an overall bands of 7 with again no band less than 6. And some schools like Oxford, Cambridge also require some additional exams like the UK MAT, 6-term examination paper for some of the programs like Bachelor's in Computer Science, Economics and Engineering. But the test is totally dependent on the program you select. So it is not for all the programs, but very, very few. Like for example, if you want to go for the medical program in the Oxford, Cambridge, so you have to take the UK MAT exam. So it's only, the requirement is only for Oxford and Cambridge and does not apply to any other UK universities as far as the undergraduate education is concerned in the UK. There is only one common application system which is called the UCAS. So the UCAS is the application system through which you apply to UK universities. It's a common application portal. So you can only apply to up to 5 schools through a single application. And you cannot apply to more than 5 schools if you're applying for the UK undergraduate education system. So in the UCAS application, you have to submit your class 10th marks, your class 12th predicted scores. There is a UCAS personal statement, or it's called the statement of purpose, of around 4,000 characters. There is one letter of recommendation you have to submit and an application fee of 21 pounds. And these are sufficient enough to apply for an undergraduate education in the UK. So all the universities in the UK are applied only through the UCAS application system. Just to give you some sense on the percentages requirement of these universities. So in Oxford, in CBSE, they prefer mostly grade A1s in any subject relevant to your course you apply for. In Cambridge, again, they require around A1 grades in all the relevant subjects. If you're applying for LSC, an overall average of 90% across 5 subjects. Imperial College London in CBSE, they prefer a 92% overall with at least 95% in maths and at least 95 and 90 in 2 other additional core subjects in the subject you wanted to study your bachelor's degree in. Schools like Durham require an average of 90% in best of 4. Other schools like Edinburgh would require an overall average of 80% or above, with a 75% at least in English. Manchester requires an overall grade of 70% with at least 75 minimum in mathematics and physics and 65% in English. Warwick requires 90% and above. University College London requires an overall grade of 95% in 5 subjects combined in CBSE curriculum. So as far as the UK admissions criteria is concerned, it is wholly and solely based only on your academic percentages. They would not place any emphasis on your extracurricular activities. SAT scores again are not required. So as per the university, you have to be very clear in terms of your academic percentage that you score in 10th and 12th. So if you have 95%, there are some set of universities you can apply. If you have 90%, there are additional set of universities you can apply. If you have 85, there's another set of schools. If you have a 75, there's separate set of schools. So don't go below 70% if you want to apply to decent universities in UK. So I would always, my strong advice is to remain above 70 and 70 and above. And based on that, you have the various categories of universities you can apply in the UK education system. Again, the tuition fees ranges from £20,000 to £25,000 depending on the university and program you want to go for in the UK. And the living cost ranges between £10,000 to £13,000 per year depending on the location. So for example, if your university is outside London, so you can cover your expenses between £9,000 to £10,000. But if your university is in London, so anywhere between 12,000 pounds to 13,000 pounds you can take into consideration for your living expenses. And from this September 2020, any student enrolling at a UK university can stay in the UK after graduation for up to 2 years. So you get a 2-year post-study work permit in the UK, where you can stay in the UK without any work permit. So the government is offering you a 2-year post-study work permit where you can work. And as an international student, you are also eligible to work for 20 hours per week part-time during your studies as a student in the UK. So these are some of the requirements that the UK universities offer. And just to give you a sense of the deadlines for Oxford, for example, UK only have a September intake as far as the undergraduate education is concerned. There is no January intake for the undergraduate in UK. And the deadlines for Oxford, Cambridge for September of 2021 will be 15th October 2020 will be the deadline for Oxford and Cambridge. And some of the other top universities deadlines is 15th of January 2021. And the last deadline which the UK universities offer for international students is 30th of June 2021. But I suggest not to wait till 30th June, because by that time a lot of seats are over. So my suggestion is to apply if you can by 15th of January. If not, try to apply by 15th of March or by end of March if you want to secure a good admission in a university in the UK. So now we will just pause here, and if anybody has a question, so you can raise your hand, and we will come back to you for any questions if anyone has on the UK education system. Yeah, Ashik, please go ahead.
Yes, so about the UK, what I wanted to ask, so for example, like in America or Canada, it is basically possible that I can earn my living by the part-time job. My living includes like my living cost, my rent, as well as my lodging and fooding cost. So is it the same with UK, or UK doesn't stand up to that standard?
See, having studied in UK myself, so I can give you from the personal example. No, if you work in the UK, you are allowed to work for 20 hours per week part-time in UK. And when I went to UK in 2004, so I used to earn around 10 to 11 pounds per hour. And in a week, I used to earn around 200 to 250 pounds. And easily, it comes to around 1,000 pounds in a month. So which can easily take care of my living, because in a year, I was able to earn around 215 to 12. So I was easily earning around 10,000 to 12,000 pounds, which can easily take care of my both my living and food as far as UK is concerned. So it holds true in the UK also.
Okay, that is great. And along with it, I wanted to ask a question in general. I had been following your webinars for quite some time, and for some purposes, you guys had recommended edX, Coursera, Udemy, and stuff for doing some courses. So basically, I tried to go with the free courses, both in Coursera and edX. And what I actually found out that there is no way I can share that I have done a course if I just audit it for free.
See, if you obviously this is not a part of this, but I can tell you, if you are looking for any courses on Coursera, so always go for paid courses, because you get a certificate in the end. So you should not opt for free courses. It is always suggested to apply for paid courses there.
Okay. I'm done with it.
Okay. So we have Sachin. So Sachin Kothari, if you can ask your question now. Yeah, Sachin, you need to unmute yourself. Yeah, Sachin, we can hear you. Okay, maybe Sachin, some problem with the mic at your end. We'll come back to you. So Ankit, yes, you can ask your question.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, Ankit.
I am audible.
Yes.
Suppose anyone student have not computer science subject in their 12th board, would he get computer science stream? Basically like me.
Can you come again? I didn't get your question.
Suppose anyone student have not computer science in their 12th board, would he get computer science stream?
But what are the subjects in your 12th?
My main subject math, physics, chemistry, English, music.
Yeah, PCM is fine enough to study computer science. So physics, chemistry, maths are enough for that.
Oh, okay, sir.
So we have Mahesh. So Mahesh, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah.
Actually, it was logged in under Mahesh. You can, my name is Jahnavi. I want to know that you said that only for the CBSE, as per the CBSE marks, they'll be considering it. So
Yeah.
I'm from the state board of intermediate. Will
Okay.
be considered or how? Can you please let me know?
Are you from the state board?
Yes,
Which state board?
Telangana.
Telangana. So Manish, would you like to take up that question?
Yeah, sure. So they also accept the state board, so that is not a problem. But the percentages level remains similar, almost or slightly, almost similar. All UK universities consider all state boards as well, so that will not be a problem at all. So they are open to all Indian boards, right?
Okay,
Percent-
because you have specified it as CBSE A1 grade,
they
so
all
I
accept,
was a little bit.
all state boards are acceptable. That is not a problem at all.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Funny. So Funny, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Actually, you told that IELTS is acceptable in UK. Is it that TOEFL is not acceptable?
The TOEFL is also acceptable. So if you're looking for UK, so you can take either the TOEFL or the IELTS. Not an issue.
Okay. And one more question. In not in UK, but in other countries, they give importance to extracurricular activities, no?
Yeah, in US
So
and mostly US, Canada.
yeah,
they place
does
emphasis on
that
the extracurricular.
NCC is considered as an extracurricular activities if they have
Ye-
certificates in NCC?
Yes, ma'am, it is considered.
Okay, and also like school council members or something you told,
Yes,
like
yes, that is also
CBSE.
considered. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. So we will now move on. So I think we have a couple of more hands. So we'll give a couple of more options to students. So we have Rajesh Panda. So Rajesh, you can ask your question.
Yeah, quick question. You didn't talk about the transcript. Is it required for UK also? And what exactly you mean by transcript? Is that not the mark sheet is not enough? What is it?
So Anamika, would you like to answer that question?
Sure, definitely. So a transcript is required, definitely, as Rajan sir mentioned, 10th and 12th holds a little more importance for sure. But generally we tend to submit 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th so that we can see a particular graph of the student, whether the student's performance, how it's been in the last 4 years. So a transcript is definitely important. And now to answer your question about the transcript versus mark sheet, there is no particular difference, but there are a couple of things that a transcript usually has. For example, a transcript is usually stamped by the school, whereas a report card or a mark sheet might not be. So there are a couple of differences, and we can obviously definitely guide you whenever it is the right time to get the transcript from the school.
But do you recommend to get the transcript right now? Because if the
So
student...
Mr. Rajesh, just to answer that question. So, as far as the UK is concerned, you can just mention your marks of 10th and 12th in the UK's application. And you can, the normal mark sheets that you get from CBSE. So those are UK, they don't require hard copy transcripts. So your scanned mark sheets that you get from CBSE of 10th and 12th, they are sufficient enough to email the UK universities for consideration.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
But for Canada, you need a transcript from the school, right?
For Canada, you need a hard copy transcript which are tested and sealed and stamped in the envelope by the school principal.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
So we have one more question from Pavni Chauhan. So Pavni, you can ask your question.
Yes, sir. Sir, can you give a brief about pre-med program in UK? Is it similar to US or Canada? Or does it have a MBBS?
Are you talking about the bachelor's in biology program or the biological sciences, right?
Yes, sir.
So those are normal qualifications. So you just have to apply for a BS biology or a BS biological sciences as a subject in the UCAS application, and you can just apply to those programs.
Sir, so UK does not have MBBS, just like in India.
So a lot of universities like Oxford, Cambridge has Bachelors of Medicine, but again the requirements are different. You have to take the UK MAT test for that. So those are totally different requirements if you want to do directly MBBS in the UK.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on now. So the next country which is really gaining popularity among a lot of students is Ireland. So Ireland obviously is a part of European Union, and the best part is that Ireland has some of the key industries like life science, biopharma, medical devices, IT, software, and engineering. And why Ireland is very good for computer science, because most of the top multinational companies like Apple, Intel, Pfizer, IBM, Google, Yahoo have their European headquarters in Ireland and in Dublin. And Ireland also has 8 of the world's top 10 IT companies and pharmaceutical life sciences companies in the Ireland. And the average per capita income of Europe is 28,000 euros, but the average per capita income is Ireland is 36,000 euros. And Ireland is the only country in the entire Eurozone where English is the language of communication. So you don't have to put a burden of learning additional language like a French or a German or a Spanish. So with English, you can easily survive in Ireland. These are the top 3 sectors in Ireland. So number 1, computer science. Why? Because Ireland is a hub for computer science, because it is the second largest exporters of computers to the world. And all the major top IT companies like Google, Yahoo, Facebook, Microsoft have their European headquarters in Ireland. And the foreign direct investment of Ireland is higher than the combined FDI, which goes into computer science in Brazil, India, China, and Russia combined. So the FDI of all those 4 countries together, the FDI which goes into Ireland in computer science or IT is higher than these 4 countries together. The second very important sector which is booming in Ireland is your pharmaceutical and biotechnology. So 6 out of top 8 biotech companies in the world have their headquarters based out of Ireland. Plenty of jobs are available in this sector, and your 60% of your medical devices in the world, which is your stents, your pacemakers, your other medical devices in the world, are manufactured in Ireland and are exported to various parts of the world. And the third sector, booming sector, is your electronics engineering. So there's a lot of emphasis on this sector because government directly focuses on this sector in Ireland. So there is a lot of scope for telecommunication, mobile communication, mobile technology, because it's a ever-growing world of communication. So a lot of thrust is given in this sector by the government in electronics engineering also. Just to give you some sense on the work opportunities. So international students can work for 20 hours per week part-time. There are a lot of universities that also offers internships as a part of the program. And a very lucrative feature of Ireland is every student in Ireland gets a 2-year job search visa in Ireland after their studies to work full time. And if during this period, if a student is able to get a job of at least 30,000 euros per annum, then he is issued a green card for another 2 years. And if during this 2 years, if he is able to maintain 30,000 euros or go beyond it, so then he is issued a green card for indefinite period of time. And after 5 years working, he is eligible to get an Irish passport. So the student becomes the citizen of Ireland and he gets an Irish passport. Some of the top universities in Ireland are your University College Dublin, Trinity College Dublin, Dublin City University, National University of Ireland in Maynooth and Galway, University College Cork, University of Limerick, and Waterford Institute of Technology. So if you're applying for universities like a University College Dublin or a Trinity College or a University College Cork, they prefer around a 85% plus in your class 10th and 12th. And if you have like a 80%, you can apply to University of Limerick, NUI Maynooth, Galway. And if you have a 75% plus, you can apply to schools like Waterford Institute of Technology, Dublin City University, TU Dublin. So these are some of the top universities in Ireland. So anybody looking for computer science, who is not able to afford a costly US education, so can easily go to Ireland, because to study in, an undergraduate in Ireland would only take you 22 to 25 lakhs per annum, tuition plus living. And within 60 to 70 lakhs, you will be able to complete your education in Ireland, and you can also earn your living through the part-time job options. So we'll again pause for a minute and see if you have any questions on Ireland. Anyone has any question on Ireland? So we have Sandeep. So Sandeep, you can ask your question.
Hello, I'm sorry, but I don't have it on Ireland. Can I ask one on Canada?
Yeah, please.
I didn't get a chance to ask.
Yes, please.
Okay, and like you're mostly mentioning the percentages. Can you give a tentative range of the GPA and the CGPA as well, corresponding to the percentages? This is basically related to Canada, but if I can have a generic percentage range for the GPAs as well, for the percentages that you're mentioning.
But GPA, you're asking for which board, ma'am?
No, I'm talking about, this is basically a US student. So my son is basically in United States, and he's currently in his junior year. So he's in 11th grade.
So he wants to go to Canada?
Right.
Okay. So ma'am, if you're looking for top schools like Toronto, Waterloo, so they would prefer a GPA of around 3.4 to 3.5 out of 4.
Okay, fine. And
then other schools, if you go down, maybe the likes of McGill or a McMaster or Simon Fraser. So anywhere between 3 to 3.2, because these Waterloo and Toronto are top schools. So they prefer a 3.5, 3.6, but other schools with a 3 to 3.2, you should be safe enough.
And this is unweighted GPA you're talking about, right? This is not the weighted.
Yeah, the overall GPA of a student.
Okay, and I have a couple more. So you did talk about the schools, top schools in computer science.
Yeah.
There were 2. So I mean, is there any specific school which focuses on cybersecurity as well?
Okay. So Manish, would you like to answer that question?
Look for those schools not in particular. Normally, we prefer that the students goes for a generic degree and the bachelor's degree and not for a very specific degree. It's always better to build up a base at the bachelor's level, rather than going into a very specific degree at the bachelor's, because then you can have all your options open in the long run.
Okay, so basically you would suggest that you go in for a computer science and then probably for your master's degree, maybe move for a cybersecurity or something?
Yeah, correct. Because at times when you start studying a subject, but the student is not exactly aware of the exact curriculum. So when they go to join a university, they come to know of all the opportunities, what are the kind of courses available on the university. So based on that, at times the choices also change, the interest changes. So we always suggest that you should go for an initial generic degree at the bachelor's level, or at least at the onset of your bachelor's. And later on, maybe in your second year, you want to do some specialization, you can do that.
Okay, fine. Thank you. I have just one more last question. So does the student need to show the finances as well when he takes admission, or he doesn't?
For the admission purposes, initially you don't have to show the finances for the admission in Canadian universities, right? Later on, once you decide to join the university, then only the funds and all would be required. That is post submission of your class, the final result, class 12 result.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so we have Prajwal. So Prajwal, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, hello, I'm Prajwal Mong here. I have a question about this Ireland computer science. This undergrad program, is it for 4 years or 3 years?
And most of the degrees in Ireland are 3 years duration.
So computer science is also for 3 years?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So we have Aryan. So Aryan, you want to ask your question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, so is there any different marking scheme for the ICSE students, or is it the same percentages required as for the CBSE student?
For which country, Aryan? Or
Sir, for UK and Ireland?
okay. So Sharmishta, you want to answer that question?
Aryan, it's going to be the same. It's very similar to the percentages that are required for CBSE students. There's not a very huge difference between the two.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we will now move on. And also for anyone who wants to have a later on a detailed discussion on your options, so you can always leave your name and number privately in the chat box, and we will have our expert panel to talk to you on an individual basis also. Okay, so we'll move on. So this is a very popular country which is very close to Asia, and a lot of students want to apply is Singapore. Sorry. So just to give you some sense on the top universities in Singapore, so we have the National University of Singapore, the Nanyang Technological University, Singapore Management University, Singapore Institute of Technology, MDI Singapore, and the SP Jain School of Global Management in Singapore. So these are restrictive options, and Singapore is limited to very few universities, hardly 6 to 7 in total. Some popular courses to consider in Singapore in engineering and IT is your computer science, computer engineering, mechanical engineering, and electrical engineering. As far as the business is concerned, so you have the business administration and business management, and economics as a program at the undergraduate level. As far as the application requirements is concerned, again, they look at your last 4 years of your academics. So your 9th, 10th, 11th, and your midterm of your class 12th. They have a very small one-page statement of purpose, so which is recommended. Your English proficiency scores of TOEFL or the IELTS, and a valid passport copy, which is required for Singapore. So they don't require the letter of recommendations, which are not required for Singapore. So they only want your statement of purpose. So entry criteria again, but it is very important to understand, since the universities are very few and a lot of students from across the world apply to these universities, so your academics has to be very strong. So even I have said 90% plus, but even to schools like a 90%, like a NUS or an NTU, you should always aim like a 95% plus in your 10th and 12th to get admission in Singapore. So try for at least a 95% plus in 10th and 12th. And outstanding achievements also, like if you have some international science Olympiads medals, any top national awards, you have been a national sports person, and you have had an exceptional rank in a top university entrance examination like an IIT or a AIEEE. So those are also valuable for admission in Singapore. And a TOEFL of at least a 95 out of 120 and an IELTS of at least a 7 bands is strongly recommended. SAT, and so I'll take the SAT in the next slide. And Singapore only has one intake, which is September. And just to also tell you, Ireland also only has one intake, which is September. So there is no January intake in Ireland for undergrad. So similarly in Singapore also, there is only one intake, which is September. And for that, the deadlines are mostly in the March. So for example, if you're applying for September 21, so the deadlines would be only till March of 2021. So just to give you some sense on the SAT, so if you are from the central or the CBSE or the ISCE boards, so the SAT and subject tests are not required. But if you are from some state boards, so you are required to take the SAT. If you are from the A levels or the Cambridge Education Board, so the SAT and subject tests are not required. And if you are from the IB board, so the SAT is only required for students who are applying only for medicine or dentistry course. Otherwise, the SAT is also not required for engineering or business for people who are from the IB curriculum. So those are the SAT requirements as far as the Singapore universities is concerned. And also, but if you're applying for a business program at Singapore Management University, irrespective of whichever board you are, the SAT is mandatory. So you have to take the SAT if you're applying for Singapore Management University, which is the SMU. As far as the post-study work visa is concerned, students can apply and get a non-renewable long-term visit pass for 1 year to stay on in Singapore to look for relevant employment. And students also need to understand that this is a non-renewable visit pass. And in case if you're not able to acquire the employment during this year, so then there is a chance that you would have to return to India. But that is now quite low, because these universities like NUS and NTU, SMU, these are among the top universities in Singapore and are also recognized by all the employers there. So there is a high chance that you will as a student, you do get a relevant employment for getting a job in Singapore from these universities. So we will pause a little here and see any questions if are there for Singapore. So Rohit, you can ask your question. Rohit Garg.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Actually, I did not get a chance to ask. May I ask a question for UK, sir?
Okay, no problem. Please go ahead.
Sir, do they have any certain number of, do they offer any certain number of seats for scholarships, sir? Or miss for Commonwealth countries?
See, there is no, obviously every university has fixed number of seats, but I will not be able to comment on how many seats each university have. But if you apply early, so you will have the chance of securing an admission early and getting a seat in the UK universities. So the always advisable to apply early.
Sir, my daughter has promoted to class 9, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Means, sir, except academics, which areas are there on which we should focus just to grab these scholarships? For UK, sir, yes.
See, UK is only solely based on academics. So if you're top schools, so tell your daughter to focus on her grades. So if you're looking for top schools, so anything less than 90% will not take you there. So 90% plus in 10th and 12th would give you a good, put you in a good stride for UK universities. If UK is your only criteria, so the focus should only be on academics.
So do they conduct any exam to provide these scholarships, sir?
No, there is no separate exam. It's totally based on merit.
And again, sir, for how many years the course is like business? Is it for 3 years or 4 years? Sir?
See, in UK, most of the university degrees programs are 3 years, but some of the UK universities also have a sandwich program. So in which means that first 2 years you study, and then 1 year you work, and then 4th year you again complete a study. So the sandwich program is for 4 years, but generally the duration of most of the undergraduate degrees in UK is 3 years.
Sir, the last question is, actually my daughter is open for any course, sir. Actually, she is interested in teaching. Okay. Sir, can you please suggest us which course she should opt where the teaching prospects is high? She's open to anything, sir. She's blank.
See, if she wants to become a professor later on, obviously, she can go for a Bachelor of Education, or she can go for a Bachelor of Economics. So these should be good enough courses for her to excel later on in teaching.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
So, Udeshya Kumar, you can ask your question.
Good evening, sir. I would like to ask a doubt. In India, there are many people who score more than 95%.
Yeah.
And but not all of them get admission in top universities of UK, US, or any other country. So, what are other criteria that they get admissions in the universities?
So, is your question with any country specific, because you have mentioned 3 countries?
Canada and UK.
Okay. So, Sharmishta, you want to take that up?
Yes, sir, sure. Okay. So as far as the top universities in UK and Canada are concerned, so first of all, let's just name a few top universities in UK. For example, there's Cambridge, there's Oxford. So which major are you looking for? Can you please unmute yourself?
Sorry, Oxford.
No, which major, as in which degree do you want to pursue?
Computer science.
Computer science. Got it. All right. So, okay. So, for example, if we're talking about Cambridge or Oxford in UK, so in that case, they have their entrance exams also. Like Oxford has the TSA exam. Okay. So, the first criteria is going to be your class 10th percentage, which you will be mentioning on your UCAS application. On the basis of that, then they'll see if they want to shortlist you for, and also you'll have to take the TSA exam first, and then they'll see if they want to shortlist you for the interview, and that's how you go forward, right? Also for the UCAS personal statement, again, your extracurriculars, there has to be a little bit of focus on your extracurriculars, preferably related to computer science. Same with Canadian universities. If we're looking at Toronto or Waterloo or any of these top universities in Canada, so even for the top universities in Canada, the main focus is going to be your academics. Apart from that, strong extracurricular activities are recommended. So in your case, yeah.
Canadian universities also have an admission test.
No, they don't have an admission.
Okay, and what about Singaporean universities?
Even for Singapore again, it's better for Singapore that you have some national achievements, like in terms of Olympiads or some science quizzes maybe. And okay, extracurricular activities are not the main focus for Singapore universities. For Singapore universities, your academics have to be very, very strong. So if you're talking about NUS and NTU, you should be scoring above 95% to get into the computer science program.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we have Mr. Mahesh Petkar. So Mahesh, you can ask your question. Hello, Mahesh Petkar.
No
Can
doubt,
you hear
sir.
me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mahesh.
Yeah. Good evening, Rajan sir. This question is particularly related to UK. In fact,
Okay.
it is two questions. There are two questions. The first one is for politics and economics. In UK, is there any specific test that needs to be given, which is kind of compared to SAT? For example, for Oxford, I just heard Sharmishta saying TSA. For other universities, is there any particular test? And
No, Mr.
second
Mahesh.
question,
No, Mr. Mahesh. First, just to answer your first question, there is no separate test for other universities in UK for politics or economics.
oh, okay. So only for Oxford it is TSA. Got that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Second question is, what are the chances of getting a scholarship for this particular stream in top 3?
See, these, just to give you some sense, these top UK universities are not quite liberal enough in giving scholarships. So very, very few universities in UK do offer scholarships, again, based on merit. But UK universities, as the universities in US and Canada are more liberal in giving scholarships. But you cannot expect UK universities to give a lot of scholarships. Maybe a 5,000 to a 6,000 pounds per annum is the maximum scholarship we have seen our students getting from UK universities. So I can also have Manish answer this question. Manish, any idea on scholarships on the UK?
Scholarships are going to be very competitive and they are primarily based on academics. The number of scholarships is relatively very, very less. And in terms to get on to the question in terms of entrance, the entrance test. So Oxford and Cambridge both have different tests for different courses. So it is not just the TSA. They have TSA. They have the MAT exam. So depending on the course, the test will change. But particularly these entrance tests are there only in Oxford and Cambridge.
Okay. That gives me a good idea about my queries. Thank you, Rajan sir and Manish sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you. So now, we have Man Kansara.
Hello, I wanted to ask that I have taken commerce in my 11th grade.
With maths or without maths?
Without maths.
Okay.
So will I be able to pursue BA in economics?
Which country?
In general.
In general, okay. So Anamika, would you like to take that up?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Anamika.
Great. So in order to pursue BA Economics, right, without maths in 12th?
Yeah.
Okay. So your options may be a little limited in in some countries, but yes, definitely there are options where without mathematics in 12th you can apply for the BA Economics program. Although some universities do prefer having maths, but still there are a few universities who are open to the idea that a student may not have maths in 12th.
Okay, and another question is that I have done many online courses which are paid and I have certificates. So will that be beneficial in my admissions?
For which country are you asking?
It's a general question.
It's a general question. So again, depending on the country, it will be a little varied. Online courses are valued a lot in US, Canada, but they are not looked at with that much importance in UK, for example. Nevertheless, if you've done these courses and if you have the certificates, in some way or another, it would be definitely beneficial to mention it on your application.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we will now move on. So a lot of universities also, a lot of students also want to look at Australia as a destination, because Australia has the third highest number of international students in the world after UK and US. Australia has produced more than 15 Nobel Prize laureates over the years, and over 1 billion people around the world rely on Australian discoveries like your penicillin, ultrasound, Wi-Fi, which we all use, the bionic ear, and the cervical cancer vaccine. All of these are Australian discoveries. Australian qualifications are also recognized by employers around the world, and very low entry requirements as far as Australia is concerned, as opposed to other countries. And as far as the part-time work is concerned, a student can work for up to 90 hours a month and 1,350 hours a year in Australia. So entry requirements in Australia are quite simple. If you are applying for the group of 8 universities, which are the top premier 8 universities, so they require at least 80% in class 12 and an IELTS of overall 6.5 bands with no band less than 6. But if you're applying for other universities which are outside the group of 8, so they prefer like a 65% plus. And if a student has less than 60% in his profile, so then he can also go through pathway programs in Australia. So these are the group of 8 universities which I was talking about. So these are like kind of an Ivy League of Australia. So you have Melbourne, Monash, Australian National University, University of New South Wales, University of Adelaide, University of Queensland, University of Sydney, and University of Western Australia. So these are the top 8 Ivy League. You can say it's called the group of 8 of universities in Australia. So these are the top universities for which you have to have like a 80 to 85% plus in your class 12th and 10th percentages. So undergraduate is mostly 3 years in duration, and there are a lot of honors degrees which are 4 years in duration in Australia. A cost of education for undergraduate degree in Australia ranges between 15,000 to 33,000 Australian dollars, depending on which program and university you're going for. And the living cost is around 20,290 Australian dollars as far as the living cost is concerned in Australia. As far as the post-study work permit in Australia is concerned, obviously you have to study a degree program. Any study resulting in a diploma program will not be considered for a post-study work permit. In order to be eligible for a post-study work permit, the student has to study at least 2 years of academic study in Australia, or minimum the program has to be of 92 weeks. And after that, the students are eligible to get a 2 years post-study work permit in Australia after their undergraduate education. So these were the presentation we had in place for you. So now we will move on to more questions. So you can raise your hands and ask your question. So we have Sood. Yeah, Sood, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to check what is the approximate cost of a undergrad degree in Singapore?
Okay. So, Sharmishta, you want to take that question?
Yes, sir, sure. So the approximate cost of attendance in Singapore will range between 25 to 30 lakhs per annum. But that 30 lakhs is just too much. But yes, it'll range somewhere between 25 to 28 lakhs, I would say.
Plus accommodation.
Yes, this is the cost of attendance. So tuition
This is
plus
this
living
is
expenses.
including accommodation.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we now have Abdullah Masood. Abdullah, you can ask your question.
Okay, good evening, sir. What will be the cost of studying in UK for 4 years in computer science?
Abdullah, the average cost of UK is between 25 to 26 lakhs per year, tuition plus living. So if you look at 4 years, so it's around a crore, 1 crore to 1 crore 10 lakhs in total.
So if,
The UK.
so if I can get a scholarship, and what will be the cost like?
See, scholarship you can expect around a 5,000 to 6,000 pounds. So it can reduce 5 lakhs from that. So around with scholarship, you can cover it around with the 70 to 75 lakhs in total.
Okay, so how should I prepare the application process? Like I'm going to give the 12th exam in October. So I haven't given the 12th exam yet, and I got 87% in the class 10th.
So focus on academics, focus on your half yearly of class 12th so that you get good predicted scores by the school, because only your 10th and 12th scores will matter as far as the UK is concerned.
So if I take a drop year, then how should I prepare? Like when should I apply and when should I start the application process? IELTS, when should I prepare for that?
So, so I'm not sure why do you want to take a drop year?
Because like I can also prepare for the SAT. Like if I get a good college in like the Ivy League of US, I'm also looking for that also.
So it is fine. So you can also take 1 year drop also for UK. So that is not a problem.
Okay, but I have a strong extracurricular. Like I have played a lot of games and I got a lot of events. I have organized a lot of events, done a lot of social work also.
These things are not considered by UK universities. They mostly place the admissions purely based on academics only.
So is US better or is UK better for computer science in artificial intelligence?
See, that is your personal choice. But if you have a strong background in terms of you have done so many extracurricular activities, you have done a lot of things in your profile. So obviously US will make more sense because they will consider all these aspects of your profile for the admission purpose.
Okay, so how can I convert the GPA of my, like I am from the state board, so how can I convert my GPA from like state board percentage to GPA, like US GPA?
There is no fixed formula. Universities will see your mark sheets and calculate it themselves. But otherwise there is no such formula of converting it.
What does a 4.0 GPA mean? Like what range should I expect percentage in terms of percentage?
See, 4 out of 4 will be close to around 90%.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we have Adya Garg. Adya, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi. So I was looking for business management courses. So is like in Singapore. So is SIM better or SMU?
Manish, would you like to take up that question?
See, ideally, I think SMU would be much better, right? But you should try and focus on the curriculum. What is the curriculum of the university? What curriculum interests you? That should be a main focus. That should be the deciding factor.
And also, I'm studying in IB right now. So, what predictors are required to get into each college, like SIM and SMU?
You study in IB.
Yeah.
Ideally, 30 plus.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
38. I said
38 plus. Adya, 38.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have Sri Dikshita. Sri Dikshita, you can ask your question.
Hello, yeah, I am Sri Dikshita's father. Can you listen to me?
Yes, please.
I would like to know what is the kind of effect this COVID is going to have. My daughter is planning to apply in 2022, that is 2022. So what kind of an effect you foresee? Are the courses going to shifted to some online. That? Or what kind of care the university is taking regarding that?
See, the COVID is only currently because your daughter is going for fall 22. So that should not be a concern because that will be 2 years down the line. So by that, no, by that time, everything will be quite normal and no, things will shape up in a proper manner. So fall 2022 should not be a concern for the as far as the COVID is concerned.
So, sorry, I have one more question. Aeronautical engineering, what are the countries which could be?
For which engineering?
Aeronautical.
Okay, for aeronautical engineering, you know, US has quite a very good, a lot of good options for aeronautical engineering. For example, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University is very good in the US. Plus, there are a lot of other good universities in the US. So you can look at US as a destination, especially for aeronautical engineering.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Ashik, can I go ahead and ask a question?
Ashik, we'll give you a chance. Just wait for a while.
Okay, sure.
So we have Pooja Damodaran.
Hello, am I heard?
Yeah, Pooja, yes.
I wanted to know, is there any other options aside from scholarships, maybe like financial aid, I mean?
For which country, Pooja?
Mainly Canada and Australia.
Okay. So Anamika, would you like to take up that question?
Definitely. So I would just like to say that merit-based scholarships is one of the maximum contributors to any kind of aid that students usually get. Need-based aids, for example, the ones that you are possibly referring to, are usually reserved for students who are passport holders of that country, so domestic students of Canada or Australia.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. I would like to know what SAT is actually useful for. Yeah, like who actually writes SAT? Like. Muted. Sir, you're muted. I can't hear you. Like none of us can hear you.
So SAT is mostly required for students who are looking for an undergraduate education in the US only. So if a US is a destination where you want to study your undergraduate education, so the SAT is a kind of mandatory by the universities there.
All right, so one more question. How to get scholarship in Ireland? And will it be easy to write IELTS while preparing for SAT, or does that require a separate preparation?
See, IELTS, and if a person has already taken SAT, so IELTS and TOEFL are not difficult exams to crack because these are general English exams. So, you know, we have all been, you know, brought up with a good English speaking medium in our education system. So they only test your skills like reading, writing, speaking and listening. So it is not much difficult to crack. With a little bit of practice and taking some mock test would make you know well versed enough to take the IELTS exam. So which can easily be taken care with the SAT. And as far as the Ireland is concerned, again, these scholarships are totally based on merit. So the academic percentage that you get in 10th and 12th would have a major bearing on your scholarships in Ireland.
So also scholarship in Australia.
Australia is quite difficult in getting scholarships. Very few scholarships are available there. Hardly 10 to 20% of your tuition fees is available as a scholarship in Australia.
So one more question, sir. What is your opinion that which would be the computer science related best college in, I mean like whichever country?
See, computer science is your option. So I rate two countries on a very high radar. So number one, US and number two, Ireland. Because US of the entire Silicon Valley and all the Fortune 500 companies there. And Ireland, why? Because of all the possible reasons I gave in the presentation. So I would rate these two countries very high for, especially as far as computer science is concerned.
Yeah, just last question, sir. What about the Scandinavian countries like, Switzerland, Finland, Netherlands, Norway?
See, again, these are also good countries. If I were to choose in the European Union, I would always go to Ireland because most of the Fortune 500 IT companies have their European headquarters in Ireland. So I will be very close to the industry there, which means I will be able to get very good jobs. And also I don't have the pressure of learning an additional language in the European Union. So Ireland would be my first choice as far as the undergraduate is concerned, in especially Europe is concerned.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks. So we now have Inaya. Inaya, you can ask your question. Okay, Inaya is not there. So we can have Ashik. So Ashik, please go on.
Yes.
Yes, Ashik.
So yes, basically what I wanted to ask that I'm looking forward in a career in the field of data science. It could be like a data analytic manager.
Ashik, can you be a little bit louder?
Okay, sure. Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, I'm looking forward for a career in the sector of data science. It could be a data analytic manager or a data scientist.
Okay.
So basically, what I've seen that most of the data science courses are in the postgraduate. So in what subject should I undergraduate, or in what should I major in my UGs?
You should major in computer science.
Computer science. Oh,
yes.
Okay. And also, what I wanted to ask regarding the universities in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, in which of the countries do I have, in general, just a better chance of getting a tuition waiver?
Getting a what?
A scholarship or a waiver.
See, in all these three countries combined, US is the country where you get a lot of scholarship waivers. Some of the students at undergraduate level have also went on to get a 50 to 60% scholarship waiver in the US universities.
Okay, thank you. And in a comparison, if we consider universities of the almost in a same ranking range, which
can you be a little bit louder for the last question?
Yes. So if you consider universities of the same ranking range, in whether in US, UK, or Canada, without any scholarship, is the degree cost more or less like the academic cost least?
See, the average cost in the US universities is around 28 to 30 lakhs per annum. And if you're looking for the top schools like a Wharton or a Stanford, Columbia, etc., so the fees goes up to 50 lakhs per annum, tuition plus living. So Canada average is around 26 to 28 lakhs, and a similar average is also looking for UK. So these are some of the cost structures in all these countries.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that's what I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Okay. So now we have K. Nirupama.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Yes.
Actually, I'm asking that I want to take environmental science for undergraduate course. So, which country should I consider?
Okay, Manish, would you like to take that up? An undergraduate in environmental science, which country is better?
Could get the question. Can you just repeat the question?
A bachelor's in environmental science, which country will be better?
You can look at, there are a couple of universities in Canada which offer, and then even there are going to be universities in Australia and Ireland which will have that course.
Okay, sir.
So you can look at any of the countries, that would not be a problem for us. In fact, you should rather also look at US, because US is working a lot on environment. You will have a lot of opportunity in US as well.
So my second question is, what would be the fee structure for that, tuition fees and all?
Tuition fees more or less in case of US or Canada does not really change as per the course. It's a generic level. What Rajan has told is similar only.
Sorry, sir, I can't hear you.
So Nirupama is mostly the figures which I mentioned to Ashik also. So a US would roughly cost you around 28 to 32 lakhs per year tuition, and Canada, UK is roughly around 28 to 30 lakhs per year tuition plus living.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have time to take last two questions because of the time constraint. So Shania, can you ask your question?
Hello.
Yeah, Shania.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
So the universities in UK, do they offer some kind of incentives or something if you have like a good degree in dance or say music or like extra
You want to answer that question, Sharmishta?
So I didn't get the question exactly, Shania. Can you just repeat? You have extracurricular achievements in dance.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're looking for universities in the US.
Yeah.
Okay.
US, Shania, US or UK?
US.
US, okay.
Yes, definitely. I think dance is one of the very good extracurricular activities that you can highlight. So which major are you planning to pursue?
Business management.
Okay. Yeah, so I think dance, so what level of achievements do you have in dance? Just to get an idea.
Basically, in Kathak, you have like 6 years of training. So 6 years, this is going to be 6th year, my last year. So I'll have like a proper.
Yeah, so I think it will definitely help. You can also upload a portfolio in the US applications. So for that, maybe what you can do is you can make a video of yourself dancing and then you can upload it on your application.
So if my grades are not that great, does that like give like an edge to me?
You will have to take the SAT exam for the US universities. If you get a good SAT score, you'll have to take the SAT subject tests as well. So yes, I think the overall profile will be considered. So in case if your grades are not that high, you can compensate with a good SAT and a SAT subject test score.
No, I'm SATs I haven't taken yet, but I'm talking about like 9th and 11th scores.
Yeah, but for US universities, the entire profile will be considered. So you will be needing the SAT score as well.
Yeah, no, that I'm obviously planning to take, but I just wanted to ask that.
Okay, yes, but if you don't have very good grades, so how do you rate your grades on a scale of 10?
On a scale of 10, I'd say 7.58.
Okay, so I think that should be all right. It should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
So we will take one last question. For others, if you're not able to answer your questions, so feel free to leave your name and number again in the chat box privately and we'll get back to you. So we will have Inaya. So Inaya, can you, sorry, not Inaya, Adya Garg, sorry. So Adya, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi. So I'm planning on applying for UK and Singapore. So do internships and summer programs enhance the like my college app?
Again, Adya, again for Singapore and UK, most of the concentration is purely based on academics. Academics will be the first point of consideration as far as your admissions are concerned in these two countries.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so with this, we are at 36 minutes past 7. So I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking your time out in coming to attend this session. And a special thanks to our panel for taking up these questions and making it an interactive session. So for people who have not got a chance, so we tried to give chance to everyone, but still if we are not able to give you the chance, so feel free to leave your name and number in the chat box and we will come back to you in answering your queries. So thank you and all the best for your careers and education and take care and stay safe. Thank you everyone. Bye.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you so much for joining.
Sir, chat is disabled. Can you please open the chat?
Yeah, I'll just open the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it is. So I'll enable the chat box for next 2 to 3 minutes. So you can anyone who's interested can put their name and number there and we will get back to you.